Welcome to The Human Experience, a podcast about the stories we live out every day and the importance of championing the vulnerability and courage of the storyteller. I'm your host, Jennifer Peterkin, and it was through my own lived story of experiencing domestic violence that this podcast was created. By traveling the globe and interviewing each guest in person, I am convinced now more than ever that stories have the power to change the world. You can join our community of storytellers by subscribing, leaving a rating and review, signing up for my newsletter, following me on Instagram, and more. Thank you for being here. In a world full of noise, to listen with intention is an act of resistance.
So, Katherine, I'm so excited to be talking to you and to hear your story today. We're sitting in your lovely home in Florida, but you're not from Florida. You've been here for a few years at least that I know of, but you're not originally from here. So I would love to hear about your story.
I'm going to, because I have listened partially to some of your interviewees, I'm going to try to go for areas that they didn't do.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah, because I started in Hungary, Budapest, and I was there until almost 15. But that too, life was very complicated for me because of the religion, number one, and there was the Hitler years and the war was going on. I was born actually during the war. So my mother, I don't know how she came back from concentration camp because she never told me that story, but suddenly there she was, and I was not quite 4 years old when she came back.
Wow.
So I was with our grandmother for those first year or year and a half that she was gone. But she came back. My father didn't come back. And I was one of those children that really didn't speak very much. And if I didn't have my brother to look out for me, who was 4 years older, I would not have turned out well at all. I would have been lost. But between my brother, who had the mind of a scientist and always since childhood wanted to be an engineer, he said to me when I was almost 8, you know, girls can have logic. What's logic? And my question was, he didn't know what logic, and he said, because I said, you know, I can get it, just how do I get it?
Yeah.
And what turned out to be the logic was the logic you get from math. Math is absolutely logical. That is the only thing that ties it all together. As he made me like and understand math, and I became very good at it at the highest levels, came with that, the logic. And that's what set up my thinking, the ability to think things through, to see the whole and know the steps that took me there. And I'm jumping way ahead, but I was very, very old when I actually realized what had happened to me because of not his insistence, but that's all he knew, that's all he could share.
Yeah.
And my mother didn't know anything about anything. She was, you know, barely surviving being our parent. So it was very interesting how there was one thing that took, and it never left me. And jumping a few decades, when I was pregnant with my baby, I had the same issue with that. My mother would say, well, I raised her in my own image. That was a very cozy comment that most parents made in those days, and that takes us back to the 40s, 50s, 60s. And I said to myself that that's not going to fly, because 20 years later, it doesn't work. Everything has changed. So you did your best to raise me the way you could, but it was not a good thing because I didn't become anything 20 years later to function. So as I was pregnant with my baby, I started to read child psychology books. And that's when I realized the relationship between parent and child and how my basic psychology, how my questions can guide a child to think through and make the next step.
Yeah. Wow.
And it worked.
I'm so happy. And that was actually not at all what I expected you to say because you are a creative, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're telling me that math was the thing that made your life kind of on track.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because you don't usually hear that from creatives. It's usually one or the other, right? So I love that.
Yes, and because of that concept, which I had applied way before I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it got me one good job after the other because almost immediately I would push up to the managerial level because I could manage. Mm-hmm. Because biggest problem people have is with that. They don't see the outcome. And if they see the outcome, it's a big dream. Mm. But if they have the steps, it becomes a reality.
Sure.
I teach. I have a lecture I give at the libraries for how do you become a writer, or where do you start? Because there are a lot of people, especially adults, who have a few stories to tell and they don't know how.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that I tell them, that you have to know the outcome. You have to know. I don't like people going around saying that, oh, the ending just comes. If you don't have the ending, you don't have a direction.
Yeah.
You will be all over the place.
Sure.
And a story will not happen. So I get very good feedback on those. I haven't done one in a couple of years, but and it all goes back to that moment in life.
Yeah.
And then the other side of the same coin of how I survived to be an old lady, I was going to be a ballerina, but my heart was not, or was it my lungs? Something didn't work. So the opera didn't take me, and I had the dancing talent. That was not a problem, but they give physical exams to all the kids before they become the corps de ballet, the children's choir. And I couldn't go, so I was probably, I don't know how many months, I was just devastated, not talking, not bad, just made my mother crazy. And one day, she couldn't come home early from work, and I had to be going with my brother to his basketball team practice. And in the gym, there was the boys playing basketball, and there were cute little girls doing gymnastics on the mat and with the coach and everything. And so the coach came over to me. I was just sitting there. You want to join us? Well, sure. And within, I don't know how little amount of time, I was right there. It was the natural. So, and because it didn't take as much energy out of the person's power as ballet does, because that's the most difficult for your body, I was able to become very good at gymnastics. But the bottom line of all sports is the discipline. Again. So now I have logic, and then I have discipline.
You're set up for life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I turned out to be, a wise guy. So that kind of held me back.
Yeah, well, maybe, but probably made you who you are too. So,
and now that I'm an old lady, it's very funny. I have a bigger mouth than ever, and I'm funnier, and I don't care what anybody thinks, because what can you do to me?
That's right.
Going to fire me?
Yeah, right. That's fantastic. I love it.
So things became better than I expected.
Yeah.
I think the only pain I have left over is that my writing, regardless of how well received, does not reach the level I had hoped it would.
Sure.
And the hardest thing was, and it took place in the last few months actually, is to say I'm not going to chase that rainbow anymore. It hurts.
Yeah.
And when I see some terrible, terrible work done, I would only make myself angry if I say, well, didn't you see how bad it was?
Yeah.
You spent $45 for the bloody book for what? So I walked away, and now doing a play, and then I'll be doing short stories and hit the magazine market, which will be another set of pain and suffering in a form, because magazines are just as difficult now as books, and the self-published industry, to me, it still has no real respect. And it's probably because you have to be your own publicist and or hire a publicist. And if you are me, twice in a row you hire very bad publicists, and time passes and your book is not where it should be.
Yeah.
And they say, well, it's your book. You have to know what you're doing. They didn't know. And,
Sure.
And that's why you can't make yourself do things that nobody supports at all.
Yeah.
And I think I'm taking care of my inner peace by taking a different direction.
Yeah.
And it's still going to be different work than most people do,
Sure.
but it will keep me at peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important, especially now for you. I mean, you've lived so much life and you want peace.
Yes, there is something wonderful about inner peace.
I would like to go back to Hungary if you are open to that, because spending the first few years of your life with your grandmother, I mean, you probably don't remember that, but then obviously living with your mom, who you really didn't understand, I'm assuming, what had happened to her for a long time.
Yeah.
And she never wanted to talk about it, which understandable. Yeah. So kind of what age do you think you were when you started to understand or try to understand what your mom had been through, and that it was maybe different from people around you?
I have a couple of very strong moments that shook me, because I was very, very independent, which was unladylike, and she did not like it. She tried to make me be the woman, the girl that will marry and have babies and can cook and sew and no. And I made her sad by not being able to do all the things that she loved to do. You see in my book, I'll give you a copy. If ever I think about her, I think about her having the job and making ends meet, and we had secondhand clothes, and she was sewing. If I woke up from my sleep, I would see her sewing and fixing something. And we lived in a 1-bedroom, tiny little place. My grandmother, my mother, my brother, and I. So all our furniture was folding down to sleep and folding up to sit. It was very, very low middle class. And nobody wanted to marry her because she had the 2 children, and she didn't want to send us to a home in order for her to be married.
Sure.
So she struggled through. And when came the revolution in 1956, Hungarian, it started with the university students. At that point, my brother was one of the university students. I don't know how involved he was in creating the 10 points that it was demanded by all the students. I don't know how many thousands of them gathered at the radio station on the Pest side of Budapest. And we only had 2 radio stations and 2 broadcast stations. It was both in one building, so that's, I can't call it a station. 2 broadcasts. One was classical music and very esoteric level. The other one was the actual radio with all the news and bad stuff, good stuff. And my school had a very good choir, and we appeared on the Hungarian radio singing, big stuff. And so back to revolution. So my brother left Hungary right after the revolution was quashed.
Okay.
And within days after. So now my mother spent the rest of our days, several weeks actually, a couple of months, October to December, for her and myself to follow him.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't know any of that. I was busy with my world. I was always very selfish about that. And finally she got it all put together to sell our furniture. So as soon as we leave and our grandmother knows that we have made it across the border, all the furniture will be picked up except for what she kept for herself. Mm-hmm. So we were, after a great deal of struggle, my mother and I were in a tiny little border town, waiting for the guide to come back to guide us across from that point into Austria. Mm. And there was a young couple who was the four of us and one guide. The guide came back, he was totally drunk out of his mind. And so the four of us were like, okay. And we went out finally to cross, and it was a full moon, December, snowfield, gigantic snowfield. It was daylight. It was, you could see everything.
Oh, yeah.
The Russian guardhouse was there. You could see it. They could see us if we could see them, right? So the guide claimed that because they paid off and he's best friends with them and they're drinking buddies and all that, they're not going to do anything. It so happened they did not do anything. But now my mother was not quite 5 feet, and I just barely was there. Suddenly she lays down, we had 2 duffel bags, each of us. She lays down in the snow, she's done, she's not going anywhere. Oh. And I was pissed off. It was not a motherly thing for her to do. We have to get to that forest across there. But what did happen, I made her get up and I said, I can't carry 4 bags. Mm-hmm. I was very insensitive to what she was going through. But that's what made her get up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She couldn't lay because those 2 bags, some of the stuff was for my brother, because everybody loves a firstborn male. Hey,
yeah. Yes.
And so I dragged her across the snow, and we arrived to the Red Cross in the forest, and our life started in Austria. But it was several years later that I recognized it was her point of checking out. Mm. She gave up, and I became the adult.
Okay.
It was a very definite transformation or transference, as it were, that I didn't notice at the time, neither did she. We were not that highly educated, but it did take place. She did give up. That's when, and from that time on, 2-3 years into being in New York, she was surgery after surgery, and she died at, I think, 59.
Wow.
So that's when all the stuff came out on her body, and one led to the other. And her life was very terrible, and I was really very busy being an important teenager, not a nice kid.
Well, to your credit, I think that's most teenagers. And
yeah, that's true.
And, it's hard to know what you don't know.
And you can be attentive to your parents because being a teenager is a job. You have to do a lot of things and you have to know a lot of things. I had a job. I brought in the money.
Okay.
So I'd never stop that.
Yeah.
I'd have 2 jobs. I'd do anything I needed to make ends meet for my mother and me. And no, I would never give up on that. So I was a very decent person.
Yes.
But I was having fun.
Yeah.
Being who I was.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard because you didn't have the experiences that your mother had, and she didn't talk to them about them to you. And so you kind of are living in completely different worlds.
We were. And that never changed. I took a playwright course because theater was my world in Hungary. And I was a writer in school, and I thought to myself, if I could write in Hungarian, why can't I write in English?
Yeah.
Very basic question, and you go to school and you find out how to do it. And my first thing I ever wrote was a one-act play. I haven't written a one-act play since. I was in whatever, 65.
Okay.
And now I'm got another one. And then it went to Off-Broadway because it won. It was the top 3 one-act plays of that school that year.
Wow.
Included mine. And I was only here a few years, so my English was bad. But I was good at hearing dialogue.
Yeah.
So it was mostly dialogue, and in between I just wrote down where they were and what they were wearing. And it was interesting because once it went to Off-Broadway, I fell in love with the leading man, and we got married, and my mother was more unhappy than ever because he was not a scholar, he was not a teacher, he was not a doctor, he was not Jewish, he had no money. His family were in Newport News, Virginia, just not the man that she had hoped for me.
Okay. Yeah.
But the love was so intense that you don't walk away from it. I mean, if anybody does, I think that's foolish because that's another experience you don't want to miss.
Yeah.
It may never happen again.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
So looking back is kind of fascinating because when you said to me to think about points of turning points,
Yeah.
and I did. And when you're very attentive, which I turned out to be as my writing and everything got better, you notice the littlest things in people. And I would tell my friends that, that person is, and I'm not being catty or anything. I'm just very observant. Mm-hmm. And then they just, blah, blah, well, she's just talking, and they walk away. But in time, I am right because what I usually say, if I were to put you in a book or put that person in a story of mine, this is what I would do for the description. And it would be both good and bad and this and that. So that's what I'm telling you now.
Yeah.
So that's how I see people.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I didn't have any idea that I had that. So that's when you're calling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love the rawness of it and how open you are to not just sharing, but the introspection of it,
Which came with age.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing. But my dedication was that I am going to get to that next point, something that was on my mind.
Yep.
Right or wrong, I'm going to get there.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. And I made many, many mistakes.
As we all do. Oh, yeah.
Just recently, I was telling somebody that I, didn't achieve what I had wanted to achieve. And then they sat me down and said, now think about it. What are you happy about? What are you unhappy about? Make the list. Mm-hmm. And once you see the list, I like myself a lot. I'm comfortable with who I am, which I didn't start until I was in my 40s. Up to that time, I was trying to please everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a hard thing to break out of.
Yeah, but it's the Jewish thing.
Okay.
You are a mama. You have to be the mama. You are the matriarch of the family. Mm-hmm. And everything that you set out to do has to be, you have to be the leader.
Yeah.
So, it took a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine. It is a journey for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long were you in Austria before you made it to the States?
That was almost a year, very, very difficult. We were that was a funny story in Austria. My mother and I, the Red Cross, you went to the Red Cross, that was the only organization at that time who did any of the taking care of the world. And so they put us into an apartment complex that they paid for that was run like it was a hotel.
Okay.
A weekly hotel kind of a thing. And the Red Cross paid for it and we lived there. And during that course of the time, my mother got a hold of her second cousin, who used to be a very famous operetta star when she was 16 and 18 and 20. And she became operetta, for the singing and dancing. And she married the guest conductor of one of the shows that she starred in, and they left Hungary and they were in Austria and all over. And then at one point they were in America. So my mother calls her or writes to her that here we are. And now she thinks, she was in New York, she thinks that I'm a 16-year-old Hungarian girl, and they were beautiful girls. The Gabor sisters and Eva Bartók and several very famous Hungarian women. Heidi Lamar was half Hungarian, So everybody thought that the Hungarian women are so beautiful. So she calls this guy named Sam Warner, who was the Warner Brothers Sam Warner, that was Jack and Sam. And Sam had retired and was living in Vienna.
Oh.
Yeah. So now we are meeting Sam Warner at this restaurant, and that's a big chapter. I couldn't believe it, never will forget it. And there's this old man, in the brown hat and the brown coat. The restaurant was all glass and mirrors and marble and chandeliers. Everybody was just so proper. And here we walk in looking like refugees that we were. In my Red Cross coat, I had tons of hair, unruly, and sit down with him. And he doesn't speak Hungarian, and my mother has immediately forgot her German. Her German was the official language in Hungary.
Yeah.
So as a child, she spoke it, but this is many years later.
Yeah.
So she didn't, and I was studying Russian because Russian was the official language. So that was my learning.
Yeah.
So we couldn't talk to this man very well, but he knew right away that I was not beauty, and I was not movie star material. Now, I don't know if there had been any difference had I taken my coat off. Maybe I took my coat off. I don't know, but I had the gymnast body, so I had a very nice body, but the rest of it was there. and it was over. I remember having my first pineapple juice ever. It was the best drink in my life. And we left, and of course he never called back. But you see, this is where, if we had been able to speak, it would have been a whole different thing. But just sitting there looking, and we were very unattractive, dressed unattractively, nothing. And this old man didn't need that.
Yeah.
So it was over very fast.
But what an experience.
And I did not become a movie star.
No. Did you want to? Was that something you wanted?
No,
okay.
I wanted to be a director.
Okay. I love that.
I'm at the top. Nobody pushes me around.
That's right.
Yeah. I was, and it was not a dream. I was already enrolled in the University of Fine Arts because I was a very good student. And that's one good thing you can say for that particular communist regime. They were very intent on education. And we had terribly high-level education at a very early age. So which helped me get through high school in this country. I was enrolled in the school as an early enrollee, and I was still first year high school.
Okay.
So I was not yet 16, but I knew where I was going.
Okay.
And I already qualified, and they knew about me.
Oh.
So I was the ideal proletarian product of that particular regime.
Okay.
Because I had one parent, I was a female, a good student, nationally ranked gymnast, definitely a leader of some sort. So they were kind of developing me for leadership. So they were not happy that my mother put me into a Jewish high school. But the fine arts and film school didn't care.
Okay.
Because even now, the religious schools have better education and better discipline and better quality, even to this day, I think. I don't know for firsthand.
Okay.
And my life was planned. And it was years later that I was very angry with my mother for taking me out of Hungary.
Yeah.
Because, yes, my brother needed to come out and start a good life, and he had a very good life that he was ready for. I did not. But because it was just a matter of when she gets married and how many kids she'll have, nobody asked me, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
And when they did ask me in Chicago, when Mother and I were visiting some other distant family who lived there, and the ladies came to the tea to meet the refugees. I don't think they knew our names. They were meeting the refugees. And they were bringing clothes, which is good, and there were tea and finger foods. And they asked me, what do I want to be? And I said, a director. I can hear the laughter.
Oh.
All however many in that nice fancy living room, they were laughing that you are a girl. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and
and that was, so it was the most horrible thing. It took me off guard, and I never got back to it, even when I probably would have had the opportunity to go to directing school, because I was in cinema school at UCLA, and I was exposed to the best of the art in this country. And I didn't even think about directing. And by the time the woman started to, it was mostly the already established actors or writers who went to directorial schools when I was writing there. And they were fighting for getting roles and getting assignments and all that. So they were having a very hard time. And today you see a lot of girl directors, as it were, on the Hallmark movies and those lightweight.
Yeah.
Ida Lupino, I don't know if the name means anything to you. She was a very, very fine dramatic actor. And she directed, and I was stunned when I found out that in the 40s she did direct major studios. So I don't know how that worked out, but she was the only one I knew who did that. We just covered about 40 years. Didn't
I know. My head's spinning a little bit because we started in Austria and now we're in LA. So.
Oh, I don't know how I did that. Usually I'm better organized.
Oh, that's
that's how life overlaps.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when you see my book, by the way, From Budapest to Hollywood, that's the title. When you see the book and the first 100-some pages are chronological. My growing up and whatever I went through, it was just myself doing my life. But then once we came and made this huge change, and I was searching for what to do for me, everything overlapped. So the book ended up to be each chapter is in a theme. So that, like just now, the themes that lead to one another are in that chapter.
Sure.
And then I go back
so on and so forth. Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the only way I could do it, because if you go chronologically, your life would be 8 billion pages.
That's very true.
And also when you go to school and you learn something, many times you don't apply it until 30 years later.
Yep.
So if you write down 30 years,
good luck. Was your brother in Austria waiting for you?
Oh, no. He had his own story. They left, he and 4 other of his classmates, schoolmates, left on a truck. And it was just maybe 3 or 4 days after the revolution was put down by the Russians. And they got on the bus and just flew right through to Vienna. No stops, nothing. Because all the Russian guards and all the Russian soldiers who had been in Hungary guarding us, I guess, from what I don't know.
Yeah.
But they were surrounding and keeping the country closed. But they had Hungarianized. They were learning the language. They were going to theater. They began to be people, very refined. Hungary was at the time very, not necessarily elegant, but definitely very cosmopolitan.
Mm-hmm.
So you learn all that. And that's why when the revolution came, and there have been pictures all over about it, the soldiers would cut holes in the Hungarian flag because that's where the hammer and the sicker, hammer and spicker, hammer and what
sickle.
is it?
Yeah.
The thing that cuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sickle.
Yeah, it didn't come together.
I thought that's what you said in the first place. I was like, now I'm second guessing things.
Yeah, but it's sickle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was our flag had that in the middle, and now these guys are going against. They didn't go against us, but they did march, but they took the Russian symbol out of our flag. So they would not stop anybody.
Yeah.
But by the time my mother and I were going, many had been stopped, and there were stories about being brought back and put in jail, and
for trying to leave.
Never heard from them. Yes, so we knew. In fact, she was not going to leave Hungary. I didn't even know about that. She wasn't going to leave until she heard that my brother had crossed the border, and there was a contact woman in Vienna who had married a Hungarian and lived there very well and loved her life. So through her, we got the notification that he had crossed. So now he contacted one of the uncles, second uncle, whatever relationship, who lived in Chicago. And he got in touch with his son, who lived in Toledo, Ohio, who was by that time a very big-time surgeon in Toledo, Ohio. So they sponsored us. So my brother came, and by January, I was early in December. No, it was in October. So by the time my mother and I got there in December, he was on the boat crossing the Atlantic.
Okay.
So we never saw him, but we heard. And then he was heading directly to Toledo, Ohio.
Okay.
Where he was celebrated. They'd never seen a refugee before. And he was put into Toledo U right away. I think, I don't know how quickly. And he went there until he finished his university studies. And he too was way advanced in his sciences and his math and his geometry. So he didn't have problems with that. And mostly, when you switch countries, you're spending most of your time on learning English and American history that you did not have before.
Sure.
Yes. So he did not see us until April 5 of 57.
Okay.
The next year.
Yeah.
When my mother and I arrived and got off the train in Toledo, Ohio, and he was there, and the whole city was there with the brass band, and they were so happy.
Oh, wow. How did that make you feel?
Interesting.
I imagine it's kind of jarring.
It is, and you don't know what anybody's saying, and then they give speeches, and we're standing there. But it was all in goodwill. And my mother didn't like it in Toledo at all, and she went to New York to be with her friends, and I stayed in Toledo to finish that first year of high school.
Okay.
There, and my uncle, her cousin, told me that if you leave Toledo now and go to New York, you're never going to go to college. And I had to go to New York because my mother was sick. So he understood, but he still made a point of trying to guide me that for my future, I should go to college and I should stay right and go to Toledo U.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do that, So I didn't.
Yeah. So
he was right.
Did you finish high school?
I finished high school in Brooklyn.
Okay.
when I lived, moved in with my mother, and I had a couple of 3 jobs. I always worked Woolworths. Remember Woolworths? Was it? Yeah, I was there, and there I was doing the stock room, where you don't have to know English, only numbers.
There's your math.
And little what is what, make columns, right? And then one day, this guy came to the candy counter, and he wanted dates. And the only date I knew was the going out to dinner. So I kept looking at him. And this went on for a while because he kept saying dates and, whatever. And even if he were to draw a picture, I would not have any idea what a date looks like.
Sure, yeah.
So until the manager came over and, yes, we have dates. That's how I learned about dates.
There you go. Well, you'll never forget them. So you were in Brooklyn with your mom. Did your brother just stay in Ohio?
He was in Ohio until he finished Toledo U, and then he came to New York and lived with us and worked at Grumman Aircraft, which was at the time foremost. And his team, his engineering team, and was very proud of that, was involved with creating the first screw or some big thing for the first rocket, first space rocket. That part of that were made at Grumman, and I don't know where the rest was, but his team had attachment to that. It's not a screw, it's one of those things, it's part of a wheel, but I don't know.
Okay.
I don't remember what it was, but he was very proud of that. And then he went to Columbia.
Oh, wow.
And got his degree there. And that's when a Hungarian head of the Hungarian newspaper met him and really liked him for a husband for his daughter.
Okay.
So he started to romance my brother and bring him into his family. And they went to my college because I had half a scholarship to Hunter College on gymnastics. I was going to be a gym teacher.
Okay, yeah.
And I was still competing in New York. And so the plan was, my mother and my brother and I said that when he finishes Toledo U, he will come live with us and take a job, which he did, and pay the bills so I can go to school.
Yeah.
But now he's dating, and he's very serious about it, and they got engaged, and it's just 1, 2, 3. I was back in doing my many jobs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And he didn't do it maliciously.
Sure.
But that the idea that old man loved him or appeared to love him was important because he grew up without a father. Mm-hmm. So now he had both a father image and a wife.
A wife, yeah.
So they grew up together. They were, and because of his brilliance in math, he was helping her to get through her college. And she went to work at IBM and became very important there. And I think she was there until retirement age.
Wow.
And she got him a job at IBM, which was very good because the aeronautics industry was just not doing so well in those years. Mm-hmm. And so his job would have ended anyhow.
Okay.
So got very lucky. But they had a beautiful, beautiful life. And they were guided by the old guy, and the old guy was very wise. Mm. But he didn't really care about my mother and me because it didn't fit into his life.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's how it goes.
Yeah.
You do what you need to do for yourself.
Yeah.
Then,
It's interesting. It's just such a coincidence because my grandfather from Hungary, when he came over, he was a nuclear physicist at the University of Pennsylvania.
He and Dr. Einstein.
And he has something from NASA about a filter he created for a part of the camera that went on, to take pictures of the sun. He created the filter that allowed them to do it, or was helpful with that. So it's just, I got so excited when you were talking about your brother I'm like, oh my, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
These men from Hungary.
The education was so high level.
Yeah.
And I hope it still is. I don't know how it is, because the Americana that has seeped into all of the European countries has had a lot of negative qualities.
Yeah.
And when I first went back to visit there, after 17 or so years here, my then husband and the father of my daughter, and my daughter was 5, we went back to visit, and they were asking for Coca-Cola. And I said, no. No, Hungarians are famous for their good skin. No Coca-Cola, no soda, none of that. And I tried to tell them, don't do that.
Yeah.
And that was so famous and so American that you had to have it.
Yeah.
And there's the naivete and, this organic stuff. Everything we ate was organic.
Right.
There was nothing
by default.
Else.
Yeah.
There was nothing else. From the ground to the table. That's
sure.
What, so it was hilarious and that's what made your skin beautiful, that you ate pure food.
Sure.
Without all the chemicals. Then now, we didn't have anything canned. We canned it ourselves all summer long. We were canning stuff, and it wasn't with preservatives. It was, it was no pectin, actually. You just had to know how much sugar you need and how much of whatever else you need that will make it solid. And then you just closed it with paraffin. Is that how I pronounce it?
Yep.
Some words still get to me because I don't use them very much and I haven't heard them.
You're doing very well. You know much more English than I know Hungarian, so.
Oh, yeah. I win that one.
Yes, you do. Certainly do. So you were attending school. Yeah, right? We're in New York, I think. You're attending school. You're working as well at the same time.
Yes.
What's next?
Next, I always get in trouble. I'm just giving you little vignettes of funny things that happen because of lack of knowledge. Much ignorance. My first job was on Wall Street in a very shishy place, export-import company, and they hired me as a file clerk.
Okay.
Based on alphabet. Everybody knows the alphabet. I can file, just tell me. So as long as I look at the 2, I can tell what letter and where it goes. Right?
Sure.
So that was a good, safe job, and I made friends, and all the people there were probably one-time refugees or just expatriates from Austria, there are a lot of German spoken, and all the Jews that got away in the 30s before Hitler took over. So, and they had this wonderful export-import company, beautiful place, and nicely dressed high heels, stockings, And I liked the job, and I fell in love with one of the guys. That was hilarious. But the funny part was, my English still was nowhere. It was before I studied any English other than the high school that we did when we were learning English. But I sat in with one of the girls in the telephone booth. They had the big walls of every line.
The operators,
yeah. So 2 of the girls were there always, and my filing room was next to that. So I became friends with Mary Dolan, nice Irish girl, beautiful, beautiful woman. And they had a text. Hello, no. It's not fax. It's not text.
Telegram?
Telex.
Telex. Okay.
Okay. That needed typing.
Okay.
So one day Mary left the booth for something and said, sit in. There was nothing going on. Okay. So I was looking at this machine and I was interested. So I called Budapest. It was there and I could type, that much. And so I called Budapest. Well, it turns out that and looking for my grandmother. So after the fact, it turns out that was the only telex machine in all of Budapest in a bank. And they're looking for this woman because she's getting a telex. So they go find phone book, they locate my grandmother. So it was a big to-do in Budapest. Now comes the big to-do on Wall Street. The office manager. What did you do? I said, what did I do? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so they took me into the conference room, and all these guys are sitting there, suit and tie, very serious, big table and everything. And they're sitting there. So the big boss is asking me why I did that. And I said, well, it was there.
And so was I.
And luckily, they knew that was an innocent thing.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, this guy that I was crazy about was there too, and they couldn't even cover their smiley faces. And I was just so intent on expressing myself that I didn't realize that all this was going on. And then they decided that I will not be punished, but am I going to do it again? And I told them I would not do it again. So that was enough.
Yeah.
So when I went back to my little room, comes the guy, Ismar, his name was Ismar. Comes the guy, and he's laughing. He said, that was funny. And I don't know what was funny. And he said, don't worry about it. Nothing is going to happen. They're not going to take the cost of that telex off your salary. But that was one of those. I think that story went around for a while.
Oh, I imagine it did. I love that story.
And but I learned how to do it. Next time I would know how to do it, but
Sure.
I didn't do it. I promised I wouldn't do it.
So it was your first and last experience with telex.
Well, not actually, because later on when I worked in other offices,
Oh, okay.
I could operate. No, I claimed I can operate it. And they let me.
I love it.
Because I was better than those who have never touched one before.
Sure.
I have touched one before.
That is true.
I can do this.
You did.
Yeah, I have a lot of those little vignettes that, luckily, it was so innocent that nobody really. Whenever I got into real trouble, that was because somebody was evil and wanted me in trouble, which also happens.
Yeah, sure.
So that was the other side of being a refugee. But at the Woolworths, there was this woman, old lady, and she started to call me a refugee. I never knew that word before. And I don't know, refugee, okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't know I was supposed to be upset until the manager came out. And there's another one, it's Mr. Morrissey. He was 22 years old and he was managing a Woolworths.
Oh,
right?
wow, yeah.
But he wore a suit and tie. And he was the Irishman that he looked like and acted like. So he kicked the woman out. And that's how I knew it was a bad word.
Okay. Wow.
You know, it was so those things.
How you learn things.
Yeah, little by little you find out who is doing what. Yeah. So, and there are other stories in Hollywood that I didn't get into trouble, but I was often the subject of gossip.
Okay. Oh, boy.
But that's because I was always so single-mindedly working on what I was working on that I never knew that people talked about me.
Sure.
Until I wrote my book.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, though. It keeps you from being too invested in what other people think.
I think that happens, yes. And you take it seriously.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened with my becoming a director.
Yeah, exactly.
They took 10 years out of my life with that laughter.
Yeah.
Who knows what could have happened?
Yeah, and it goes to show we never know how our words affect other people. You know, they probably didn't give it a second thought, the way that they reacted to that, but how it affected you was long-standing.
I was supposed to have an appointment. Oh, I became an agent in Hollywood. Did you know that?
No.
Oh.
Well, we're still in New York.
Oh.
How are you finishing school in New York? Because I don't know how you got from New York to... Did you go from New York to Hollywood?
Well, yeah, with my husband.
Okay.
But first I took a public relations and journalism course.
Okay.
And there too, again, the writer in my brain is flying around. We had turned in the paper every week, and he would read the paper every week. And week after week, he's reading mine. Not because it was so terrific, but it was the kind of writing you don't want to do.
Oh.
Because I didn't do the 5 W's. I did little short stories.
Okay.
And that's not journalism.
Right.
Now I know, but at that time I was, happy. And so he was reading mine. This is exactly what I'm telling you not to do. The first paragraph has to have the 5 W's. But I'm using that now in my lecturing because indeed, when they ask you what is your log line is the 5 W's. If you cannot put your entire book or film or short story, anything into that one sentence with all those words that you need, you don't have a story. Something is missing. Those 5 W's have to be right. And the how, because the how is the story. Who, what, when, where, why.
Yeah.
How. And now you're writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And once people get it, it works.
Yeah. Yeah, truly.
Yes, so that was my experience with that school. Then I had the Vic Tanny. I was I was a guest instructor at the ladies' gym.
Okay.
It was Vic Tanny and Jack LaLanne. That was way before your time, but they were the first bodybuilders. The big Hungarian bodybuilder that was Jane Mansfield's husband, Mickey Hargitay, the mother of Mariska.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all bodybuilding. And in bodybuilding, what you do is you're flexing and you're holding and you're going very slowly and the muscles build. When you're doing a weight loss or when you're trying to tighten yourself, you do the same weight, but you move fast because you want to get rid of those muscles. And bodybuilding is the opposite. So it's a very big sport and it's nice and all that, but people sometimes forget that it's stupid. So after work, I was going to the gym and I had 2 classes, 20-minute calisthenic classes, basically just enough for people coming from work, the women coming from work, and you work through their bodies and now they can do whatever they want. And I was very well recognized. So one day I was taking the measurement of this person and I'm just writing down the numbers and I'm doing her thigh and it was 27 inches or 28 inches. And I'm just saying that, do you know that some people have waists like that? And I just continue writing.
Yeah.
This woman went through the ceiling, goes to the manager. What is that person telling me? Well, you're here to get rid of it. But I wasn't making an opinion. I just made a reference. I said 28 inches. It works here, it works there, it works there. So they had to protect me. But then Vic Tanny himself came to visit the gym, and he has heard that story.
Oh, you're famous for your stories.
Katherine I was still Kathy at that time, getting into trouble by doing nothing wrong, just speaking.
Just being you.
Just speaking, right? But they got me to do on Lexington Avenue, which was a very important street, and the gym on Lexington Avenue was very famous and well respected. And I was a guest instructor there for several months. It was very hard on me to come from work and get on the train and go and whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was very proud of that.
Yeah.
Because I'm still just doing what I know and they appreciated it.
Sure.
So that was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
And then I wrote the play. Then
you wrote the play. Okay.
Then I went to school and wrote the play.
Are you in university at this point?
I never
or
went.
high school? Okay, so this is still high school?
I did high school in New Jersey, in Brooklyn in 59.
Okay. So this was just classes you were taking?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were night classes.
Okay.
Because I had to work.
Yes.
So I never went to college.
Yes.
I'm sad to say, but I did take enough courses that I was going to take one more course, I think, and I would have had my first degree. Because for 20 years I was always taking something.
Yeah, all the credits.
And got it. So it's there. I saved my papers.
Yeah.
Somebody could still give me a degree.
We should. We need an honorary degree for you, I think.
Yeah. So then he and I came to Hollywood and...
But what's the play about? Because it went off Broadway, you said.
Oh, the play was just one act.
Yeah.
So, and it was about a true incident that happened to me on the beach in Fire Island the previous summer.
Oh.
So it was a true story, so it wasn't really hard to write, except for one thing. In my story, the bad girl went off with the guy. In my real life. In my story, I got the guy.
Okay.
So it worked out just right.
Yeah, the way it should have been.
But what they did like is because the guy was such a cocky character
Okay.
that a nice little foreigner would fall for. It was a rich character. So the guy that they hired, I was there hiring him with the director, was a very good actor, kind of like in the Steve McQueen genre. Very, very full of himself and always getting the girl and always leaving the girl.
Okay.
And that was the man I fell in love with. And interestingly, he fell in love with me. And then things I didn't know that he was infidel. Because I was so in love, I never saw anything wrong.
Yeah.
Everything he did was fine. Whenever he came home, it was fine. Whenever he ate, it was fine. It was always fine. And I got a job and always bringing in the bread.
Yeah.
I've supported more people than
oh my goodness.
Nobody's ever supported me. It was one of those things where, that's why I laugh when somebody is begging for money. Oh, get a job, you know? I didn't speak the language, I got a job. And I did well, and I learned, and I could go to the next job.
Yeah.
I was washing dishes in the hospital in Toledo, Ohio, after school, and every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock in the laboratory.
Yeah.
You know how filthy that is? Ugh. Hospital lab.
Yeah. I can only
I was
imagine.
doing that for all the time that I lived there. So, you need an income, and you need an income. You work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's life.
Sure is. Did you marry him?
We got married in New York.
How quickly?
Probably a year.
Okay.
I think I was 24 when we came to Hollywood, or 25. 24. No, 25, because we were driving across country and we were we were having my 25th birthday dinner on the road in Arizona.
Okay.
Going through the forest. What is the forest? Petrified forest. And on the road, and I saved the menu and the bill from there. It was like we both ate steaks and had a glass of wine and a beer and something and spent $4 plus tip.
Oh.
But yeah, so it was 25 and I came to Hollywood. And
how long after you got married did you leave New York?
Just a few months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, left my mother, and that was kind of a mistake. But again, it was not malicious. I left because wife's place is with her husband, So I went and did.
And was he from California? Is that why you moved back there?
No, he was a Southerner.
Oh.
I learned to make grits, and I learned all kinds of Southern things.
Biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why California then?
Well, Hollywood, because
Okay.
he's an actor.
Okay.
And that's where the action is. And his friends from he went to a Pasadena Playhouse on his GI Bill
Okay.
after Korea. That was probably the best school at that time for acting,
Yeah.
other than the New York small schools that were run by major previous talented actors. So his friends and everybody were out there. So we went. Time passed, and I had a job I was very good at, public relations and publicity, and I was fit. But then one night, he and his friends are watching television, and they could do that better than, that guy is no good, I can do it better. That sort of, people do that. So I said, well, why aren't you doing it? I mean, I don't know. And my husband said, we need an agent. I said, what's an agent?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I dropped everything I was doing and got my license. So by the time my baby was 3 or 4 or 5 months old, I went to the studios with my little briefcase of all these guys that were sitting in my house, saying, in a rented house, saying that they could do it better than, whoever.
Yeah. Did you like being an agent?
Yes and no. I didn't have an opinion. I was reading a lot of scripts, and that's where it kicked in. That's where reading the scripts to find parts for my actors was my transformation into a writer, a screenwriter,
Okay.
because I had access to see what a script is like.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to get serious about it. And it was a very hard road, but I did get into it, and I did have a couple of moments.
Yeah.
But not the big deal. I couldn't get any of my big deals done. That was my favorite story. That's a sad story, because my agent took my script to the Blake Edwards company.
Okay.
That was Julie Andrews' husband. So it was an absolute top production company. And I didn't hear about it, so I kept calling, well, what's happening? Well, it turns out the development guy loved it and wanted to put it onto the company calendar. But now the development guy has to bring it to the rest of the company.
Sure.
So, but when I found out that it was at such a level, I was sure that, hey, it's going to happen. And that would mean that Julie Andrews would do my leading lady. I was in heaven. And time passes, and by that time I was working in a law office, and I was a paralegal.
Okay.
And on my desk, I get a complaint that is filed, and I worked for the head of the litigation department, so all the cases went through me, and I logged it in for him. And it's from that guy, the development guy, is suing Blake Edwards' company.
Oh.
There went my script.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I was destroyed.
Yeah.
It was like, and stuff like that happened a couple of other times for the stupidest reasons.
Yeah.
If he had said that a month later, I would have had a contract.
Yeah.
So the date, I wrote another one that was going to be shot in Hungary. And it had a director, it had a leading woman. They were starting to go out over there for location scouting. And Hungary becomes a democracy. Again, if they'd waited just a few weeks, it would have been in the can.
Yeah.
But the whole plot was based on the comparison between economy in capitalism, and economy in communism. So it was all tied up into a neat package.
Yeah.
Of a love story.
Yeah.
So that didn't go.
Yeah.
It's been like that.
Sure.
And I've been let down many times. Yeah.
It's so fascinating and frustrating how much life can come down to the right place at the right time.
Yes, that's absolutely. Because I've always been at the right place at the wrong time. and nothing ever came together for me
Yeah.
at the level where I needed it.
Sure.
And then finally, when I'm a good writer and I switch over to novels and I'm getting really seriously good at it, all my agents are dead. So once again, I am without an agent, and I'm an old person. And you don't just get an agent without knowing somebody who tells you that. But I'm in Orange City.
Yeah.
It's not the hub of literature.
No. Sure. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. So you did a lot in LA, in Hollywood.
Yes.
Paralegal, agent, publicist, PR.
PR, screenwriter.
Screenwriter.
I'd worked in television, but, not enough before I left town.
Okay.
And came to Florida.
And why Florida?
Because I had my brother in New York. Mm-hmm. I would have been the ideal place, but I had no clothes for New York.
Okay.
And I have not driven in snow.
Uh-huh.
And nothing about New York that appealed, that I remembered. But in Boca Raton, where my best girlfriend and her husband lived for many years, that was a different story. I had the right wardrobe. In Boca Raton at that time, this is 94, 95, 98, just before 2000, it was a great little, very cosmopolitan town.
Yeah.
Now it's gotten terribly big and very crowded, like everything else, because so much of Miami has moved up, and it's less and less of the old Miami that used to be. But I haven't spent that much time down south. I went to Fort Lauderdale a few times because of something to do down there. Mm-hmm. But Boca Raton was the best years of my life.
Really?
I was, I survived an earthquake that was gigantic for me.
In California?
In California.
Okay.
And I could not stay in California. I was really screwed up. And
From the earthquake?
yeah.
Yeah.
I lost my apartment.
Oh, no.
I didn't own anything. I came to Boca with 100 and some boxes of books and clothes. And by the time I moved around, it was less and less books. First I got rid of the novels, then I got rid of authors. And now that we have internet, I really don't need any books.
Yeah.
Because you just talk to it and it's all there. So when I move from here, there's going to be a lot more books going.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I and I had a very high life in Boca because I fit in. I wasn't too weird. Everybody there was weird. So I was one of them.
Okay.
And it was just the way to be.
Okay.
I could walk into any room and I was happy.
Yeah.
And they were happy. So, yeah. And then I fell in love. And, you learn all your life, you learn that you may not learn. But it used to be said that if you want to have money, you marry a rich guy. If you want to, you envision yourself marrying money.
Yeah.
Well, so I paid attention and I did. I married a rich guy with a lot of big thing going on in the stock market, and he was playing tennis and I was still working, and luckily, and did not play tennis. And one day he had what they call is a margin call.
Okay.
Which means that your stock or stocks, whatever, at a margin where you have to put in that much money or it will be going to somebody else who puts in that much money.
Okay.
And he was on the tennis court, and by the time he got around to talk to his brokerage, it was too late. It's a margin call is you stop everything and get some money right away. So he didn't think it was that important because he didn't know, because he wasn't as bright as he made out to be. So now we didn't have a lot more money.
Oh, you were married at the time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah, I didn't like to just live with a person. I don't do that.
Yeah.
And
did you get divorced in California? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And he came here, and that was what was terrible. The only thing in my entire life that I regret is that I let my daughter come out here and leave me in California and move in with her father.
Oh, he came here first? Okay.
Yeah, the next woman after me that he married here, but met in Los Angeles, was from Lakeland, Florida. And so I think they got married here, but he moved and they moved in together. And he still thought he could make some movies here, and he started to get involved with it, but he didn't have the discipline that he needed to put an independent film together.
Okay.
You need to do many, many, many things. You can't just...
Did he become a director?
No, he was an actor.
Okay. So he stayed
He stayed an actor, and he was very good, but he didn't have the discipline. He didn't. He thought, it's the thing that I mentioned. You have a dream, that's wonderful, but you have to have a plan.
Yeah.
And a dream will always be a dream unless you go after it. And I brought him his Screen Actors Guild card. I brought him everything I could. But he went out on a reading. He got the job. He was very, very talented. So were a couple of my other clients. And I knew where to send him. I knew where I did my homework.
Yeah.
Then I couldn't do anything anymore because he liked his beer drinking, and he would be drinking his beer with his mechanic. And I would say, why don't you go to the Peninsula Hotel where the directors are drinking?
Yeah.
And they liked him. They liked his work. He could walk in there. He could be drinking with them.
Yeah.
And then get the next part next Monday.
Yeah.
That's how it works. It's not what you know, it's whom you know. So anyway, it was very sad that he never gave our marriage a chance, because to him, I was still a foreigner, I think. I mean, I don't know why. If he had stayed home and taken the marriage seriously, we would have been a perfect family, because we had this beautiful child. I was pretty smart, and I was moving his career.
Yeah.
He could do everything that I sent him out on. And it was inevitable that he will be a major name. But then he leaves town, and now he and my daughter got together and decided that she should move out here and just visit me there, and it was not good at all. And she happens to be very smart. I'll take credit for that.
Yes.
And she figures out everything that she wants. She's so smart that she finds jobs that if it's too much work, she will find a way out of it.
Okay.
And she'll move up
Yeah.
and leave that one to somebody else. She'll go back and train them.
Yep.
I was never like that. I would want to dive in and show them how it's done.
Yeah.
And no, she's the right thing. I'll show you how it's done, but I'm moving on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, she made a good life for herself and a great marriage, and I adore her husband, and I'm very, very proud of her. But she too didn't go to college, and I don't think she has actualized the way she could have, as I haven't, as I could have. So life without the family unit, where everybody is present and supportive, is essential for everybody to go forward. You will always have that hole if you don't have the support. Like I never had the support. And then I never had the support of either of my husbands. I had the love, there was no question about that, and I was fine, I was working, but I was loved. But when it came to my writing or my passion or my anything, nobody was in my corner.
Yeah.
My son-in-law refers to me as a writer, and also I was a real estate broker.
You're just adding it in.
Because now that you're listing it for me, I'm
Yeah.
yes. In fact, I just renewed my license. Okay, the thinking. I'm 80-some years old, right? The thinking
You are
is-
not.
For sure, I was born during the war.
Oh my goodness. I mean, I wasn't doing the math, but you don't look 80-something years old.
It's because I feel good.
Yeah.
But I just a couple of months ago, I renewed my license, so in case I need to get cash flow, I will be able to go to work in an office. I would never go out selling real estate again.
Yeah.
But working as an administrator, I could be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know you could.
So I have this plan in case I don't sell all my short stories that I'll be writing after the play.
Yeah. And that comes from somebody that worked their entire life to make ends meet for everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's okay, it's the way it is. And sometimes I think that I should be envious, and envy is ugly. Because whether people are lucky or not, that didn't happen against me. It just happened. They are lucky.
Yeah.
And suddenly they don't have the problems I have. But, life works in mysterious ways, and everybody gets repaid. And I know I'm not, philosophically educated at all, but I feel that because I read everything and I want to know everything, I do find answers to many things on my own without asking. And that's a comfort.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm never going to be lost again,
Yeah.
I've lost long enough.
I know you've been back to Hungary. So how many times have you traveled back there? Have you been able to go often?
No, not as often. But we went there one time because my husband, the actor, was working in a movie in Spain.
Oh, okay.
So my daughter and I joined him the last few days of the show, and she and I did the tourism and everything. And then when he finished, we took all the money he made and went to Stuttgart to visit a cousin one day, one night, and then went to Budapest for 2 or 3 days and came back to Los Angeles. And I had very little money left for the 4 weeks of work he did.
Yeah.
But, money was always important and never there.
Yeah. Yeah. Was there ever a thought that you wanted to go back to Hungary?
To live?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
A very good friend that I really, really admired, who was a Hungarian, highly educated. I always admired the educated people, and I was always attracted to educated people. And he was one of the executives at Columbia Pictures.
Oh.
And I met him in a Hungarian situation, and we became very good friends. And he went back to Budapest. I don't know exactly in what year, but he did not become. I thought he was going to become a filmmaker in Hungary and all that, but I think he was too lazy by then. He was getting on in years. But he came back and he never took me. And I thought he should take me with him because I know what he knows in America, and he knows what he knows in Hungary, and we could do big things. And he wanted to do big things. But then the next thing I knew is he married somebody and moved to Malaga.
Oh.
I know, it's wonderful, but why? But no, I never went back because I could not live there now. I couldn't learn the language enough to function. I would be really out of place.
Okay.
If I went back there with a lot of dollars, which I really couldn't, supposedly I could live well on Social Security. And many Hungarians that I know did retire there because it was good to go home.
Yeah.
And the Social Security money was at that time enough to live pretty comfortably. By now, I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
The economy or any of that. I was there a year ago for a few days. I did a week in Hungary, and then I went to visit my British friend I don't remember the name of the little town in England West Essex.
Okay.
It was on the ocean because we went to the beach, but it was so cold.
Oh.
But I loved that place and
Yeah.
the castle and all that. And then I went for 3 days to my other English friends who expatriated to not Lisbon, Portugal, way south of Lisbon.
Okay.
And that's where they're going to live the end of their lives. And here I went from 3 layers of clothes into a bikini. I mean, not really, but the heat was bikini weather. But no, I never take my clothes off again. That's
done.
never again. It's always long pants,
Yeah,
long
yeah,
shirts.
yeah.
Always, yeah. But that was, and I did that year, 23, 24. Yeah, because I figured I could still walk and I could still carry my own luggage. But I couldn't. I had to get a wheelchair for those long, the distance between terminals is devastating.
It is, yeah.
And you try to walk it and carrying 1 or 2 bags.
Yeah.
I could not handle it.
Those airports are huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the worst one was funny. And I get out of the plane, and by now they had my wheelchair lined up. And I'm looking, and there's no wheelchair. And my travel agent, big brain, she had 45 minutes for me between 2 planes. But one plane was here, and the other one was way, way, way away.
Oh, geez.
It should have been a 2-hour
Oh, wow.
between if
Yeah.
you are smart as an agent. And so now I finally get the guy shows up and, name and everything. I jump in and off we go. And I said, and he knew where my plane was going. So they do communicate, thank God for that. So we're going into one lane and it's too crowded, and I push us around and we go up to the gate and carries my passport and we gotta go.
Yeah.
And so he was running. Then we get on the train for one stop, then we get off because he said, no, we have to go. I mean, we were back and forth.
Yeah.
And finally, we got to the plane and they were waiting for me. So now I get up there and everybody's looking at me. For that, they were waiting.
Yeah, yeah.
It was so
Stressful.
very,
Yeah.
very.
Not the kind of experience you want to have.
Yeah, and when you are alone, it's just... And even when I got back and I was going to spend money on having a jet, that private jet, they had... My travel agent got me a deal from Ossining or Westchester County, New York, to, I think, Orlando. Got me a very affordable deal, and I said, what the hey, I've never been on those little jets, I want to do it before I die. And so I signed up and everything. I arrived, and I was 3 days in Ossining before, whatever, I think before I was coming back, I don't know. And I called them to tell them I'm here, where is the entrance to the private airport. They said, oh, we canceled that flight. Just happens to tell me they canceled that flight. There weren't enough people on that flight. I said, well, nobody told me.
Yeah.
What am I going to do now? Well, do they know? Do they care?
Right.
No.
Right.
So I ended up getting a plane out of Westchester Airport, which was fine. But I still wanted that experience.
Yeah.
It was like a little luxury.
Sure.
Yeah. That didn't happen. I'm still getting their emails telling me all the deals I can make.
And you're like, you're not going to trick me again.
Yeah, right. Could not believe it. And then I wrote them a letter that to the head guy. And because in law, I know how to find the presidents and the vice presidents of company. I know how to do that kind of search. And I write them a letter, and they, nothing, not even sorry.
Yeah.
Because I expected a ticket or something,
Yeah.
make me happy. No, those days are gone. They don't care. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's very different now.
It's sad.
It's very different. Yeah.
All that it used to be, flying used to be so fabulous. We were drinking and smoking and making love. It was those big planes, so wonderful. And there was one Continental, I think, that had this bubble on top that was a bar.
Okay.
We just got there as soon as the belts were off, All the drinkers were up there.
Yeah, that's not something that I can imagine, but it sounds fabulous.
I met some great men on those flights. And, and what I liked about traveling was that every time I met a new family or couple, I would now have a place to stay if I want to go somewhere.
Sure.
And so I went to some places.
Good for you.
I know.
Yeah. Have you done a lot of travel by yourself?
Not much. At first I was embarrassed to be alone. And I was not raised, a lady doesn't travel alone.
Right.
So finally, one of my writer friends had a pass ticket to Rio de Janeiro, the carnival, and his fiancée got a writing job. You don't drop a job for carnival. You can always go to carnival. So I took over her ticket, and it was just fantastic. And it was an amazing trip. Ran out of money completely. By the end, just sell my shoes to get a drink.
You have such a fun way of telling stories about your life. And it sounds like you've just lived such a full life and that you've focused so much on living and, not just existing, not just getting by, but living your life.
That is exactly what I did. And the thing that applied to me the most was I work hard and I play hard. So I take advantage of what is there.
Yeah.
If I have to work, I'll get it done. If I don't have to work, I'll get that done too. And after my daughter left me, I was, so broken up and had sickness and everything. Bones went out, joints went out, all kinds. And it was, I kind of didn't really care about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So I was busy with writing and working. Never stopped working, not for a day.
That I believe.
Yeah.
How long did you stay in California before you moved after your daughter left?
I was there altogether almost 30 years.
Yeah.
29 some years. She left, I think she was 16 or 17 when she left, which was a bad time to let her go. And I left in 94. I don't know, a few years.
Yeah, not too long.
Yeah. But what was beautiful, on my 50th birthday, I was in Hallandale, Florida, with a producer friend of mine. We were putting together a pilot for a series based on a book written by the attorney for the boys. What are those boys? They were new, the boys. They were new band. Something boys, new boys, something, city boys, but anyway.
Okay.
Some band, but we were working on that. So we went down to meet with the attorney and work. And Lee, my daughter, and her boyfriend that time were up here and drove down and met us and went boating with us one day. And that's when I met the guy that she married later and still in her life. Is that amazing?
That is
Here
amazing.
I am searching for a life, and here she's doing it, making it.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of her.
Good.
Yeah.
And she's in Florida still?
Oh, yeah, she's in Castleberry.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get to see her still.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And she just asked about Mother's Day. We're going to the Barry Country Club buffet.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter where we go. I mean, DeBarry is not a big-time town, but it will be a nice buffet.
Yeah.
And we'll have fun.
And you'll be together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most important part.
I don't know. The little bit that I studied about your interviews, they were so seriously committed to seriousness. And to me, life is really very funny.
Yeah.
I have to be serious about the family. Have to be serious about your job, the writing, the passion. But other than that, you can't be serious about many things. And I didn't think my stuff would fit into your stuff.
Oh, really?
Really?
I think you fit quite nicely. I love your story. I think it is beautiful expression of resilience and independence. And I think you're a woman to look up to. And as somebody that was raised by an independent woman, I appreciate that a whole lot, because I can say with confidence that I am who I am, and I am the person that I am, and I take the risks that I do because of my mom and the way that she lived her life. And it's completely different than mine, but, you know, I admire her.
Yeah.
And so I admire you for the same thing.
That's nice. Where is she?
She's in Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's right. You said that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I do have a question that I ask everybody at the end of all of my interviews. Did you get to that one? That's okay. So the question is, through the lens of your experiences, what does compassion mean to you?
Compassion? Mm-hmm. Giving your best that you got. On every level. People to people, animal to people. Just giving.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it has to be more complicated than that.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Passion is another story. But compassion is just taking yourself and putting it where it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how would you ask, or how would you answer if I said passion?
Passion?
What does passion mean to you?
That has a lot of levels. Mm-hmm. Because you can be passionate about certain things. I think passion drives you. It's not just it's not a feeling, it's a driver. Because when you follow your passion, things happen, good or bad.
Yeah.
And you can't deny it, it moves.
Sure.
And compassion is something that needs to be done, and you do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just made that up.
Well, I liked it, so it's good. Katherine, you've been such a joy to interview and to talk to. Thank you so much for your time and just your willingness to share your experiences in your life, because I think it's all something we can learn from, just how we approach life differently and in similar ways as well.
Differently. As long as you care, you got to care. Once people don't care, it's over.
You're right. Yeah. Apathy is a killer for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's why I'm always in trouble. You know, I always want to help somebody or not help, or be there or not be there.
Yeah.
Decisions.
Truly. Yeah. Every fork in the road. But, you know, as you've already stated, you've made your mistakes but they've led you here. They've led you to who you are and to the stories that you tell.
I really feel, and I don't say that there's nothing I wish to redo. Mm-hmm. And the only regret I have is having lost my daughter in that fashion. I think that I'd like to read about me, but I don't think that any one person knows me enough to write about me, because people know bits and pieces.
Sure.
And it depends not on just what I've said, but on my mood and the way I deliver it. Because I can say the same old thing in a very scholarly manner, and then you don't have the enthusiasm that you seem to now have.
Yeah.
So, you know, girls like to have fun.
Uh-huh.
And you got that. And there are many days when I don't have fun, and there are many days when I think, how come I'm still here? You know, and those questions have no answers.
Sure.
And a lot of my old friends, I wonder, you know, suddenly, you know, how did it happen? I mean, yesterday I was playing tennis and finding my spots.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very glad that I did this with you.
Yeah. So once again, thank you. And I just really appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to The Human Experience. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your friends and family, share it on social media, and rate and review it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also support the podcast financially by going to my website, thehxpod.com, linked in the show notes, and clicking on Donate. It takes a lot of time and resources to create this podcast, so every little bit helps. Everyone has a story, and I'd love to hear yours. So be sure to check out the show notes for more information about how to stay in touch. Do good and love well.